Another prediction has come in, and it is not a good one for Ole Miss.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, the most watched Ole Miss podcast around. I am your host, Steven Willis, a 10-year veteran member of the national media with Yahoo Sports and a former Ole Miss staff member. On today's show, we talk about how Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin went from getting a home run signing to not even getting an official visit from Landon Duckworth. We'll talk about what that means and the history of Lane Kiffin and why he struggles so much with recruiting these elite quarterbacks out of high school. We also look back at some quarterbacks who were once committed or recruited elite until they suddenly weren't. Then we dive into who might be next up for Ole Miss football in the high school recruiting game and whether this means the Rebels are heading back to the portal for their next quarterback. And finally, it wasn't all bad news. Deuce Gerald went on social media and called his visit to Ole Miss special. And that's something every Rebels fan should feel good about. Remember, we're free and available on all the podcast apps and on YouTube. Thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen every day. And a special hello to the insiders and everydayers who make this show what it is. And don't forget to find a second listen on the network. Chris Gordy at Locked On SEC or Corey Burton at Locked On Vandy. They offer more perspectives on college football, the SEC, and yes, even potentially Ole Miss. So it has been trending away from Ole Miss for a couple of weeks. But 3 weeks ago, Landon Duckworth, it was considered that he was coming to Ole Miss. It was basically a done deal. We were just trying to get to the official visit. And he had crystal balls from Steve Wiltfong, and everybody assumed that Landon Duckworth was Ole Miss bound, which he was until he wasn't. I'm not going to get into why he wasn't. I'm not going to get into really anything. Once a kid decides to go elsewhere, and especially once they drop outside of the top two of Ole Miss, I simply cease to care. But the fact of the matter is, this Elite 11 quarterback is not going to Ole Miss. Not officialing to Ole Miss. Ole Miss is basically dead to him. Even in the age of the transfer portal, there's probably not going to come back. So why does that keep happening? And I say keep happening because Ole Miss fought the good fight with Deuce Knight over and over last season. Deuce Knight ended up going to Auburn. The year before, it was DeMond Williams. Remember him? Ended up going to Washington. He actually showed out pretty good in the bowl game. The year before that was Marcel Reed. Now, the transfer portal has shown off very good, and Ole Miss really landed a gem out of the high school ranks in Austin Simmons. But even that had special circumstances to where he reclassified a couple of years and got to Ole Miss quite early. People looking at rankings and everything do not know what's coming with Austin Simmons. But that's honestly an example of why this is so frustrating, because Austin Simmons has all of the talent in the world, and you have the chance to come in, take over in a couple of years. It seems like everybody would want to do that in this offense. But in this age of NIL and rev share and all of that, the recruiting game has changed a little to a lot. And what I mean by that is, back whenever I was being recruited, or back when, heck, go back 10 years ago when Jevin Sneed was being recruited, that time frame, when Deuce Gerald's dad was being recruited, it was about feel. It was about money under the table, if we're going to be honest. And it was about stuff other than real things. The money under the table was good, but there was really no way that there was a fair market value in what was going on. What you got was what you got. In this age of rev share and NIL, what you get is what you earn, what you are worth. And what you are worth is based on what people are willing to pay for. And Ole Miss has a very healthy collective. We've said that many, many times. Ole Miss does not have a wealthy collectives. Walker Jones has been on this show multiple times and said he wants $1 to spend like 3. Ole Miss will get in the ballpark with another team, but they need to win the recruiting battle on the other stuff, the stuff that used to be important whenever a kid came on an official visit. The offer would be in the ballpark. You need to blow it out of the park with this other stuff to get them on campus. With some recruits like Deuce Gerald, it appears that is working. But at the quarterback position specifically, that is the most high dollar position in all of college athletics. People are going to talk about why it is up so high, but that is absolutely true. If you look at Duke, they signed Tulane's quarterback and got him to transfer to Duke for $4 million. It is hard to get elite quarterbacks. So I assume that Ole Miss is getting into the range, but once it gets down to brass tacks, their financial muscle isn't quite enough to get them over the top. South Carolina, they have to spend because of what they've done the last several years. Auburn, Mr. Yellowwood's obviously throwing around money if you look at their recruiting class rankings over the last couple of years. They're serious about it. Heck, Texas Tech is going full landman money and spending $55 million over the course of a year. People are spending. And Ole Miss, while not a wealthy collective, they are an efficient, they are a good, they are a healthy collective. And because of that, Ole Miss is going to be in the game, but they're going to have trouble with high school quarterbacks as it sits right now. And we'll see exactly what that looks like. I was a huge proponent of what Landon Duckworth could do in this Ole Miss system. Landon Duckworth could have won potentially the Heisman doing the stuff that he would be allowed to do at Ole Miss. He could, but that wasn't the thing that was important in this recruitment. I've seen text messages. I know what has been going on behind the scenes. Nothing nefarious or anything like that, but it's about what you would expect. And we all thought that Ole Miss would be in position on their official visit. If it got to the official visit, Ole Miss would be able to flex their muscles a little bit. But if you don't get to the official visit, there's nothing really to flex except a lowball offer and other people willing to bid a little bit more potentially. Kind of is what it is. Landon Duckworth, really good quarterback. But what does that mean for Ole Miss sports? What does that mean for Ole Miss football? Ole Miss just missed out on Landon Duckworth, but the hunt for a high school quarterback is far from over. Who is next on the Ole Miss Rebels radar? We'll break that down next. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. And that's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO that gives you the full visibility and control over your finances. It isn't just a budgeting app at Monarch Money. It's a complete financial command center. And you can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you can stop managing money and start actually building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, even plan long-term goals. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. So Ole Miss missed out on Landon Duckworth, and it looks like they really missed out on when he's not even taking an official visit to your school. That generally means you missed out pretty good, and there's not really a transfer portal boomerang effect for this recruitment because it's either going to be South Carolina or Auburn for him. So what is next for Ole Miss football at the quarterback position? Will Ole Miss lean into the transfer portal in 2025 and beyond? Or will they kind of bank on the fact that Reese Wise, the quarterback out of Austin Westlake, who is committed to Ole Miss, has the goods to carry the Rebels moving forward? We know that Ole Miss is looking for 2 high school quarterbacks in this class. And Reese Wise, man, he came on an official visit. He came on an unofficial visit, fell in love, and you could tell immediately if he got a committable offer, he was going to commit on the spot. He got that committable offer, and he committed basically on the spot. But who is the second quarterback for Ole Miss? And there are a couple of candidates of what's going on. There's Gavin Sidwar. He's the quarterback that is out of LaSalle College High School in Warrenton, Pennsylvania, which hilariously, I was in Willow Grove. That's right down the road from Willow Grove. I used to have to take that exit to get off the turnpike. 3-star on On3, 3-star on 247, 4-star on ESPN, 4-star on Rivals. Overall, a consensus 4-star player, right on the edge of moving up. National 293 player in the country, 22nd quarterback, and the ninth player in Pennsylvania. This is a good high school player, and we've had his video up on this site before. He is somebody that has a ton of arm talent. He needs to grow a little bit. There's a little bit of Brody Croyle in his game, but a redshirt year would do a lot of good for him sitting behind Austin Simmons or whoever is doing that behind A.J. Maddox with the quarterback room that Ole Miss is putting together. Gavin Sidwar has a ton of arm talent. He is somebody that is a really, really good high school quarterback. He's somebody that could come in and learn that Charlie Weis really likes, that Lane Kiffin really likes, and that Ole Miss has continued to recruit, even though back in April, he committed to the University of Missouri. Ole Miss is on his list. Ole Miss is trying to stay in his Rolodex and at least trying to get into the top 2 because of his arm talent. Not necessarily arm strength, it's arm just talent. And Gavin Sidwar is a really, really good player. The next player I want to talk about is Luke Fahey. We had his video on the podcast before as well. He is another quarterback. He's a 4-star by Rivals, 3-star on ESPN, 247 and On3. His biggest flaw is the fact that he is a little bit undersized. He is about 6 foot tall. He is a little quarterback and could struggle a little bit. Ole Miss and Indiana appear to be the top 2 schools. We have to check and wait and see if Luke Fahey visits. This is the player that I expect that Ole Miss is going to end up with. I think Ole Miss is going to end up with Luke Fahey. And the reason is he's kind of an electric player. He played at a football factory in Mission Viejo in California. And he can make all the throws. He can do all the stuff that you would think Lane Kiffin and Charlie Weis would want him to do. When you look at his video, you can see the electricity in his game and the way he plays. He is somebody that could be an electric style Matt Corral type quarterback. He's not big enough to be a Jackson Dart type, which that's honestly what Reese Wise kind of looks like in his high school video. But when you look at Luke Fahey, you see a little bit of Matt Corral in his game. And that makes sense. They're both California guys. And he is somebody that is going to use athletic ability to get outside. He's got a strong arm. He can throw the ball downfield. Passing lanes could be a problem for this quarterback because of his size. But he's only 17, 18 years old. There's a chance he could grow quite a bit as well. Since his top 5 schools that have offered him are Indiana, Ole Miss, Auburn, Oregon, and Florida State. Obviously, staying in California is not a big deal for him. Oregon and Florida State has less than a 1% chance of signing him. Auburn is around 8%, but then it's an Indiana, Ole Miss type deal. Now that Landon Duckworth is kind of taking the press work off of this is going to happen, it'll be interesting to see which direction that Lane Kiffin and Charlie Weis Jr. kind of turn their attention. Again, Gavin Sidwar from Pennsylvania has a ton of arm talent. Luke Fahey has arm talent. I think Fahey is the better athlete, but Fahey is also pretty undersized when it comes to a college quarterback. Sidwar 6'3", 175. Like I said, a little bit of Brody Croyle in his game. Fahey, though, 6 foot, 190 pounds, a little bit stockier, a little bit shorter. He uses that athletic ability, I guess you could say, for good. I like Luke Fahey as a quarterback. I think he will possibly be the second 3 or 4 star quarterback that Ole Miss signs. Reese Wise and Luke Fahey will battle it out for who backs up, AJ Maddox and Austin Simmons. So this could be pretty interesting to see which direction this goes. But in the age of the transfer portal, you can never have too many quarterbacks. And Ole Miss last year, they had Austin Simmons as a backup. They had the best backup potentially in all of the SEC. Starter Jackson Dart, they had the best quarterback in all of the SEC. People are going to think that, hey, Ole Miss is going to take a step back. It is up to Lane Kiffin to find somebody through evaluation to replace Austin Simmons. Again, we talked in the first segment, Ole Miss kind of lucked out with Austin Simmons, getting him to reclassify. This is a 1-1 level talent in Austin Simmons. This is not the type of quarterback in high school that Lane Kiffin normally gets. It's just the way it is. And so we'll see exactly how that goes. I like Luke Fahey. I think he has a chance to be a star in the Southeastern Conference. Height could be a little bit of an issue, but height isn't something that Lane Kiffin looks at. Remember, he went after DeMond Williams, the Elite 11 level quarterback that ended up at Washington from Arizona. Height isn't necessarily a deal breaker for Lane Kiffin. So we'll see exactly how that goes. In our final segment, Deuce Gerald's called his Ole Miss visit special and why he might be the most important recruit on the board. We'll explain all of that next. I'm pretty excited. Deuce Gerald's tweeted, I think, yesterday, a big thank you tweet to the Ole Miss staff and called his visit special. And it makes sense that it was special. There's a clip going around of him taking his picture on his official visit wearing number 2, Deuce Gerald's. It makes all the sense. Had Devin Gerald's in number 72 in his picture as well. Obviously, this was a pretty special trip. Deuce Gerald's parents are from this area. And because of that, you can kind of feel a little bit the love of Devin Gerald's Sr. When it comes to Ole Miss. Now, we reached out to the Florida football scout, Brian Smith, the Locked On recruiting guru on staff, and said, hey, tell me about Devin Gerald's Jr., Deuce Gerald's, what's going to happen there? And he just flat out said it's going to be Ole Miss versus Ohio State. He's going to take all of his visits. Ole Miss has an advantage. And the advantage is the fact that Devin Gerald's is pretty familiar with Oxford, with the Ole Miss football program. Deuce Gerald was on the sideline when Ole Miss beat Georgia and stormed the field and all of that stuff. A lot of stuff is working in Ole Miss's favor when it comes to Deuce Gerald. This player, when you look at how good he could be, he is listed at number 94. He's a 4-star player, the number 6 defensive lineman, the number 9 player in Georgia. On 3 has him as a 4-star, 147 in the country. 247 has him a 4-star, 168 in the country. ESPN, who had him at the Under Armour All-American game, has him as the number 39 player in the country. And Rivals has him as the number 33 player in the country, which is right on the cusp of 5-star level. Now, the problem that Deuce Gerald is going to have in his process is the fact that everybody worries about his height. If he ends up as a 3 technique, will he be able to stop an offensive lineman if they're running a power play? That's the question with Deuce Gerald, not the pass rushing stuff. Deuce Gerald's in pass rushing is a savant, honestly, if we're going to be real. He had a couple of sacks in the Polynesian Bowl. He's an elite pass rusher. He is somebody that when he gets on Ole Miss's campus will slot into the role that Jared Ivey played almost immediately. The pass rushing stuff, the strong side defensive end stuff, there is no doubt that he can do this and do it very well. But the problem happens is everybody wonders whether or not Deuce Gerald will grow over the time that he's in college. Once he hits a college training table, will he grow a little bit? Once he starts lifting weights at a really high level in a college weight program to where you put on what, will he grow into a 3 technique from a strong side defensive end? Will he make 5 technique, 3 technique? 5 technique is a defensive end and a 3-4 defense. A 3 technique is basically what Walter Nolan did last year. What will Deuce Gerald do? If Deuce Gerald can handle what's going to happen if he grows into a 3 technique, he's the best player in the country. And it's not particularly close. A lot of that has to do with some of the elite pass rushing skills. If he stays kind of a tweener between a 3 technique and a strong side defensive end, if he kind of grows into an Isaac Gross, it's going to be a little bit more difficult for him on the outside. Not quite quick enough to be a pass rusher, a little bit too small to be an interior defensive lineman. He's kind of pigeonholed a little bit. So that's the reason the rankings are what they are. But the people that have laid eyes on Deuce Gerald's in the Under Armour All-American game, when you see what he can do, when you see what he can do at the Polynesian Bowl, the people that have actually seen him think very highly of him and think his ceiling is through the roof if we're going to be funny and hilarious like Michael Jordan was. So we will see exactly what Deuce Gerald can do. I'm pretty fired up about it. And Ole Miss fans should be fired up about Deuce Gerald and where Ole Miss sits on that. They should be down a little bit about the Landon Duckworth stuff, but they should be up about the Deuce Geralds. And I am really excited to see if Luke Fahey or Gavin Sidwar can end up at Ole Miss and become the players that I assume they can be. If Reese Wise and Luke Fahey get to Ole Miss at the same time, that quarterback battle for whatever position will be an absolute war. I'm pretty excited about how all of that could end up and what will happen for them. Okay, today is kind of my last show in this studio. When we do the show on Monday, I should be in the new studio, new decoration. Busy weekend coming up. So if you don't see me on social media, that's the reason why. Should be a lot of fun, but kind of is what it is. So we'll see exactly how that goes. Not bad for the middle of June. Remember, Sunday is Father's Day. Reach out to your father. Tell him that you think that Luke Fahey or Gavin Sidwar might be next up for Ole Miss football. He would appreciate that if he is an Ole Miss fan. So we'll see exactly how that goes in the near future for that. Thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your go-to source for Ole Miss sports. We pride ourselves on offering the most comprehensive perspectives, which is why we're the front door of Ole Miss. When people want to research the Ole Miss Rebels, they usually stop here first, and thank you for that. Your support means the world to us. For your second listen, check out The Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to the college football landscape. Find The Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Hotty toddy, everyone, and remember, analytics is just the old English word that means bad football. We'll see you tomorrow.